Hey everyone, Jackie Aiken here, just dropping in really quick to say hello and have a quick chat about the emotion of guilt. Now, this is a big one. We can feel guilty for so many things. And in fact, we can feel guilty about things we didn't even do. When we look at where guilt comes from, it often comes from the ages of, say, between 3 and 5 years old, when we're starting to get these personal relationships set up in our lives, when we start to go through the play experience, when we start to take leadership roles, we start to affect other people. It's like a moral compass. It tells us when we're crossing boundaries, when we're hurting other people. It shows us exactly how to forge relationships healthily with people. Now, some of this can be skewed depending on how we were raised, depending on, how much our parents shamed us, how they taught us to stay within boundaries of people, how they taught us what we were responsible for and what we weren't responsible for as really young children. And not even so much what they taught us, but what we perceived and then started to believe ourselves. So guilt can come in many different ways. It can come in the fact that we can feel guilty that we've done something wrong. We can feel guilty that we've hurt somebody or violated someone in some way. We've crossed a boundary. We've got these feelings of remorse, right? We can feel guilty when we cross our own boundaries, when we say have told ourselves we're not going to do something and yet here we are doing it again. When we don't stick to the sort of playbook that we have set out for ourselves, we feel guilty. We feel guilty when sometimes we've even thought of things and we haven't even done them, but we'll still feel guilty about that and hang on to it. We can feel guilty when we didn't maybe help someone enough, when we started helping but maybe couldn't stay committed to helping as much as we wanted to, or maybe we feel like we let someone down. And then there's survivor's guilt, when we've lost someone, when someone really important has left our lives, and perhaps we hang on to some of the guilt with still being here. The fact that we maybe could have done more, should have done more, what if we had done more? We can hang on to a lot of that. Now, with guilt, it's made to teach us about forging healthy relationships. And so this is why some of us can have this guilt that just stays with us to a point where we'll overgive, we'll overspend, we'll not even have the money yet buy this extravagant present for someone, or, not have the energy, but still just go and do for people things that we do. Now, this healthy relationship that we need to learn about is often with ourselves. Ourselves are really the ones that are responsible for holding on to the guilt. Because let's face it, a lot of these stories, they're really not even true. We can be holding on to stories that, in fact, really are not reality. And sometimes when we just talk to people, sometimes when we reach out and ask for forgiveness, sometimes when we reach out and just say, you know what, I feel like I really did something wrong here, you'll often find that the other person is like, really, you really shouldn't have been hanging on to this all this time. Yet here we are. And here we have forged these really, really crossed boundaries in a lot of ways that didn't necessarily have to be. So then we hold on to the guilt of that. So what is guilt trying to teach us? Guilt is trying to teach us about having healthy boundaries and healthy relationships and honoring ourselves. When we think about it, we can feel so much guilt. We can even feel so powerful that we could maybe feel like we're jinxing someone or causing them bad luck, or, oh, I'm not going to go. They always lose when I go. It's amazing the stories that we can tell ourselves. So our duty, our job is to honor these things that are popping up. Notice when we maybe feel these ways and ask yourselves, is it accurate? Is it really, are you really responsible for all that? Or maybe did that person have some responsibility in it as well? Look at the people, especially in a survivor's guilt situation. Look at the people that are not giving up on you. Look at the people that are still there. Look at the people that need you and want you here, and that you could be literally having amazing relationships with that we maybe choose not to due to that guilt. Now, when there's a lack of guilt, we would almost worry. I think most people feel guilty. If they don't, there's probably, some psychopathic tendencies where they had even more sort of things set up in a different way, but that's a whole other subject. What I really want to focus on today is the fact that we have this for a reason, and that it is trying to teach us something. It's trying to teach us to have grace with ourselves, have compassion with ourselves. So pick some things that instead will build that worthiness story, will build that self-love story, will build that compassion for yourself. Perhaps you need to have a conversation with someone. Perhaps you need to ask for forgiveness. Perhaps you just need to have a conversation with someone and actually talk to them about a situation, maybe that has nothing to do with them, and just get an outside point of view. And it can be really enlightening and amazing. But truly, this emotion is made to bring up really important bonds that we need to keep in our life. We only have this one life. We only have this one timeline. And so really to pay attention to what this guilt is saying, to not let it ruminate, to be able to feel the feeling, but to not stay in it. And I think that's what we're going to come to with most of the emotions, especially on these lower vibration. They are bringing us into that contracted state, right? So we don't want to stay there, because more will come to feed that state. The trueness of that emotion is to teach us to propel forward and to not want to feel this way anymore, to make these changes, to know that we have this power. We're not 3 to 5 years old anymore. We're not having to take everybody else's stuff on. In fact, most people that have some guilt have a lot of integrity. They allow it to teach them the truth. They allow it to know, I don't want to cheat on this. I want to be true to it, and to really be able to honor that. So talking to someone, reaching out, so many ways we're going to dive into with the emotional mastery. This is really just kind of touching on some of the emotions to give us a parameter of where to start and what these emotions are really trying to teach us. So I am sending you guys huge love. I am encouraging you to look at some of the ways that we may be holding on to some guilt in our lives. Think about it every time you say, oh, I feel so bad if, oh, I feel bad. Even if you're typing it, even if you're writing it, notice these things and notice if it's really yours and if you really need to be hanging on to it. And maybe even notice what it's doing to some of these relationships and how you can repair these now, when it's before it's too late, before we've lost time, so we actually don't have things to feel guilty about. Make every moment count. Love you all. Have a great day. Take care.